Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. And I keep asking, but please do like and subscribe and give me some comments. I like the insults, especially those I get from Larry the Goat Herd. I mean, anybody who keeps a goat in his living room, you can criticise me anytime. But I don't keep a goat in my living room. I've got a little doggy, a Shih Tzu to be perfectly honest. I'm going to talk today about another absolutely disgusting, horrific murder and the sentencing at the Old Bailey today of a young man. I call him a young man. I'm not lapsing into the vernacular here. A young man called HASSAN Sentamu. HASSAN Sentamu, age 18. He's just been sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum sentence of 23 years. If they'd sentenced him to a minimum term of 123 years, it wouldn't be quite long enough. The family of his victim, a very beautiful young lady, by the way, and I will put a link down below to the BBC review of this, so you can have a look at this beautiful young lady. She was 15 years of age, and it was Elaine Andam, and she was on her way to school, and he stabbed her numerous times, knocked her to the floor, and stabbed her to death, and walked away, leaving her there to die. And what was all this about? Well, according to the reports to the court, it was a row that they had between them over a teddy bear. Over a teddy bear. And on her way to school, she was accosted by HASSAN Sentamu and stabbed to death. The thing is about this individual, HASSAN Sentamu, there's a certain striking resemblance between this young man and another brutal killer called Axel Raducanu. Yeah, a lot of controversy about Axel Raducanu, which we will go into at a later date. There is a certain similarity. You have a look and see if you can spot that similarity. Do let me know in the comments down below. Have a look at the BBC where they've got a picture of HASSAN Sentamu, and let me know if you can spot any connections with Axel Raducanu. See if you can spot the similarities. Anyway, this individual had a long history of assaulting girls, and not only assaulting girls, he was also had a history of carrying knives. He had a history of carrying knives and a history of attacking girls. So they knew that this was a dangerous young man. Once again, another similarity with Axel Raducanu. But there are certain other similarities that you will see when you have a look. So why is this society? This is Great Britain. This is England. Yeah. I mean, I came from the 1940s, and we had nothing like that. Well, we didn't really have a great deal of knife crime. We had violence, obviously, but nothing like the scale it is today. And the prisons in the 1940s and 50s had a maximum of 30,000 inmates. We've now got nearly 90,000, or virtually 90,000. And as a solution to all that, they're building more prisons. Build more prisons. That's the answer. Whereas people who are displaying aggressive tendencies and carrying knives, and known to be doing so, should be taken out of circulation, in my opinion, immediately that they display this disgraceful, dangerous, antisocial behaviour. But in this case, they didn't. And in the case of Axel Raducanu, guess what? They didn't do that either. Why? Who's to answer for this? Well, obviously, the first blame you've got to think is the parents of these two individuals, Axel Raducanu and HASSAN SENTAMU. Yeah, they must have known. And they would have known that they were housing extremely dangerous, volatile individuals. Sentamu attempted to plead guilty to manslaughter due to the fact that he claimed to be suffering from autism. Yeah, going back to the 1950s, we didn't really have much of that. What we had, if you misbehaved yourself, was a good whipping. That's what we had back then. Now, I don't advocate brutality against children, but there has to be a solution. I was a violent little bastard, let's be perfectly honest, I ain't no saint. But my father had a cure, believe it or not. He had a homemade cat o' nine tails. Seriously, these days you get locked up. Present that to the magistrates. Well, I gave him a good whipping because he was a very naughty boy. And what did you use? Well, I used my cat o' nine tails. Seriously, it was a big thick leather belt that they used for sharpening razors, yeah? And he'd sliced it into about 6 different strands, and he used that quite liberally. And I tell you straight, it hurt. But this is back in the 1950s. Yeah. It taught me one thing. If you're going to commit, or you're going to behave in an obnoxious, nasty manner, don't bloody get caught. No, seriously, it was all for something and nothing. But in them days, it only needed to be something and nothing. These days, there isn't an answer. The Isle of Man, they used to flog people who were behaving in aggressive manners. In the prison system there, they could be sentenced to flogging. The birch. They had a birch, it's a twisted twig with all strands, and it was a bit like a cat o' nine tails, and you got that on your back. But that stopped in the 70s, I believe. But you look it up, Isle of Man, corporal punishment. And it ceased around about 1973, I think, something like that. Anyway, so that's today's little rant. Another murdering maniac, a youth, HASSAN SENTAMU, and he's doing 23 years minimum with a sentence of life, and he was just sent down at the Old Bailey. So, where is it all going to end? We're going to end up with the jails full. The jails are already full, but they're going to have high maximum prisons, and that's what I would advocate. A serious supermax prison in the middle of bloody nowhere, preferably on an island, to house 10,000. And if we've got 10,000 inmates, let them have a go. But use mainly artificial intelligence and robotics to keep them locked in the cells and let them out one at a time. If they don't want to be in society, that's the way to deal with them. Get them out of society. Noticed I restrain myself from using vulgarities, but only just, let me tell you that. That's a song dinger, folks. If you're wondering what I've got round my neck, it's a zip and me glasses. You've been warned, you've heard the song dinger. Run for the hills, I'm going to sing you a song now. This is quite appropriate because when I read what this young man had done, I nearly lapsed then, didn't I? Yeah, you heard it, yeah. It made me feel like bloody crying. This is Great Britain. This is the country that our ancestors fought and died for. So this is a song that I think is appropriate. It was originally recorded and performed by a guy called Johnny Ray. I can remember seeing Johnny Ray at the London Palladium, Sunday night at the London Palladium. You remember that? You won't. I do. And he was on there around about 1955, 56. And this was one of his big hits. He had quite a few. I'll discuss one of his other hits at another time. But this was one of his big hits. It's called Cry, which is what I felt like doing when I read this bloody report on HASSAN SENTAMU. If your sweetheart sends a letter of goodbye, it's no secret you'll feel better if you cry when waking from a bad dream. Don't you sometimes think it's real, but it's only false emotion that you feel. If your heartaches seem to hang around too long, and your blues keep getting bluer with each song, remember, sunshine can be found behind a cloudy sky. So let your head down, go right on, baby, and cry. If your heartaches seem to hang around too long, and your blues keep getting bluer with each song, well, now remember, sunshine can be found behind a cloudy sky. So let your head down, go right on, baby, and cry. There you are. When you read stories like that, that young man, HASSAN SENTAMU, it makes you want to bloody cry. Tales from the Jails. Like and subscribe.